Hello, welcome to another episode of Technically Analytics. In this two-part episode, I wanted to discuss the different options for my New York Mets at the trade deadline this year in 2024. So, to make sure to like and subscribe for more baseball content like this. The first part will focus on selling at the deadline, which means the Mets are out of the playoff race. Not currently the case. The second part will focus on buying at the deadline, which means the Mets are in the playoff race. Currently the case. All right. So anyway, when I initially thought of this idea, I was only going to do selling. But then I thought to myself, the Mets started winning again, and I thought to myself, maybe I should do both sides to avoid being one of those fans. You know what I mean? Those fans. The format will be a bit different in the selling portion to the buying portion. In this video, I'll go over who the Mets could sell and what I would want for those players. In the buyer's video, I'll talk about the players the Mets could acquire. Obviously, these videos aren't exhaustive of all options, so I just picked a few examples just to show what could happen or what maybe will happen. And then there's also a third option where the Mets do nothing, just thinking about the 2021 deadline. And that would be very sad if they do nothing. So to start off, the most important thing to watch going forward will be the wild card race. Currently, the Mets sit 3.5 games out. I reckon the Mets will need to be at least within 2 or 3 games of the wild card to justify buying. And as for selling, I think 4 or 5 games out is probably more is probably the line. So, and somewhere in between that, who knows what they're gonna do? Like it could vary. I don't know what the front office's line is, but to me, like if they're 4 or more games out, it's over. Just especially at the deadline. So to get started, we need to look at the contracts to see who's going to be a free agent next season. So this is a very helpful little thing you can do when you're looking into who the Mets should get rid of, or who they should get rid of, or shouldn't get rid of. So the contracts are looking like this. You have the list. You could see this on Baseball Reference, and it tells you who has a big contract, who's a free agent, and you could see the first few players: Lindor, Nimmo, Marte, Senga, Diaz, McNeil, all have pretty big deals throughout. And then you see the free agents. Who are going to see who's going to be free agents next year: Quintana, Alonso, Rayleigh, Narvaez, who they DFA'd and released, Manaya, Severino, Martinez, Bader, Hauser, Ottavino, and Diekman. So potentially everyone from, let's say, McNeil all the way down to Diekman is available to be traded or kept, depending on what the Mets want to do. I mean, the thing is, they're going to get traded or they're going to walk at the end of the season. So the only exception to the rule is McNeil. He has a big deal, and we're going to talk about him soon. Or actually, we're going to talk about him right now. I made a mistake. Sorry. Right now. So Jeff McNeil, second baseman, utility guy, plays outfield sometimes. He's been having what could possibly be called the worst season of his career. You can see just the little summary down here. He's negative .1 WAR. He's batting way below his average, way below on base, way below slugging, way below, almost 100 points down on his OPS. Like, he's having a horrible year. He signed to a big contract a couple years ago, 4 years, $50 million. And it's not looking good. He's been benched the last few games, and in those few games he was benched for Jose Iglesias. The Mets have won all those games. So, yeah, not looking great for him. And this is a guy that won the batting title in 2022, and he had a great season. And he's always been a consistently good hitter, always gets on base, has a high batting average, but he's a contact hitter. He's not really known for his home run ball, though. Whenever he tries to hit home runs, he always has a horrible season, and it happens every time. So I don't know why he ever tries to do it, but he's kind of like Arise if Arise was inconsistent and bad at and really it just tried to hit home runs. Like, he could be that kind of guy. So for McNeil, I'm expecting the Mets to probably keep him, but I would trade him. He'd be maybe the first guy I'd trade. I mean, if you get a outfielder or pitching or something, like, do it. Whatever. Even if it's like minor league guys, I wouldn't mind. It's fine. You have to eat the money, unfortunately, but you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, he would be one of the first guys I would trade. Unfortunately, he's been a good player for the Mets his whole career, but he just hasn't been good, and he seems like he's kind of a team cancer in the locker room a little bit, which doesn't bode well for him. I mean, I don't know, the rat and raccoon incident thing, and then last year, and then he's just, I don't know, and then the vibes are just off with him. So yeah, I think Manuel needs to be traded for sure. And then of course we have Pete Alonso, free agent next year. This is the big one, obviously. He's performing just fine. Maybe a little. He's been a little in a slump a little bit this season. Hasn't been able to get out of it really. But I mean, he's gonna be fine. I think at the end of the year, he'll have his career average stats, first baseman. So for Alonso, I'm expecting to get a big haul. You can see his stats here. He's an incredible hitter, and his defense is actually really good now too. To be honest, he stepped up his game defensively at first base. So if the Mets are to trade him, they don't resign. They have to negotiate with him in the offseason. I think they trade him if they're out. Like, he's one of those guys. Like McNeil, you could probably keep him even if we're out of the, like, you could trade him whether we're buying or selling. You could trade him for like better pieces, or you could trade him for minor leaguers or whatever. But Alonso, you only trade if you're out of it, like, because like his contract's up. He doesn't want to. He turned down a contract extension. He doesn't want to negotiate with the Mets right now. So yeah, and if he wants to come back, then I mean, negotiate with him in the offseason, right? Like, that's the best move, and then let him go play for a contender, maybe get a ring. Like, I don't hate it. It sucks to see a player like that go, but at the end of the day, like, they gotta do what they can, make the team better. He could get a really good haul of prospects, I think, from some team, or some good position players if they're buying and they want to trade Alonso for, like, I'm gonna talk about this in the buying video, but yeah, for some really good players, you could do that. And then we have Harrison Bader. Surprisingly, really good offense from him, and I mean, pretty good defense. The weird thing is he's like a platinum glover, so he has a gold glove, and he has, like, he's known for his defense more than his offense. And you can see here, it's offensively, he's been kind of like, not the greatest. I mean, especially the past few years, he definitely hasn't been a great offensive weapon, but with his good offensive production this season, I think he's a potential trade candidate for sure. I mean, especially for selling, like, get some good prospects for him. Like, why not? Like, and you got to keep in mind, these guys are all like rentals, so it's not like we're like, and if we're buying, then, I think he could have some value in a trade for maybe an upgrade in the outfield for sure. And then you have the pitchers. We have Sean Manaea. He's definitely a good trade candidate. He's having a great season too, actually, for what it is. 3.63 ERA, 57 innings pitched, 57 strikeouts, 1.2 WHIP. I mean, it's not bad. Like, he's obviously not going to win a lot of games because the Mets can't save a lead for their life, but Manaea is definitely a good trade candidate. He could get some really nice. We could probably get some nice prospects for him. So he's a nice rental for some contending team for sure. Like, down the stretch, thinking like, like a team that's like on the bubble could use him in the rotation to lengthen it. And you can see his stats here. Like, he's always been decent his whole career. I mean, he's had some struggle years, but he's been hurt a lot. So I think he might be back, like, legit, like his Oakland days. He might be back to like that kind of days. So yeah, it's nice to see him do well. I think if the Mets are selling, he's definitely a great piece to sell, I think. And why not? We have a lot of young pitching to come up. We have Christian Scott and AAA. We have other guys that could pitch. So I don't see why trading him it wouldn't be bad. It would build our farm system, and it's like a win-win. And we have Luis Severino, who we also got this offseason, and he's been really good too, actually, surprisingly good, even almost better than Manaea. They both performed really well. Severino had a really great start the other day, 8 innings pitch, shutout ball. So it really good. And he's on a 1-year deal, so it makes sense to trade him if they're out of it, I think. I mean, you could see and Severino is one of those guys who's been good. He's a really good pitcher, but he just can't seem to stay healthy. And this year he's kind of proven that wrong. Like, he's been staying healthy the whole season, hasn't had any real injury problems. So it's really nice to see that. I think we can get a lot of value out of him and Manaea, and probably would trade for some relief pitching as well with these guys too. I would think some relief prospects, because our bullpen needs work. And then, so yeah, that's gonna wrap up the selling point of the video. I'm gonna move on to the buying portion. And so yeah, for selling overall, I think what we want is we just want to get prospects back in return, and that's the main thing. We'll just say, like, let's look at the D-backs minor league talent. Like, you see all the rankings on the side here. It's kind of like what you want to get. You want to get these kind of prospects that have good ranking, good prospects that can maybe turn into something for you. And that's kind of what this is just an example of like what I'm talking about when I say prospects. I want really, there's a lot of teams have great farm systems, and we need to take advantage of that with our talent that we have on our roster, and they could get it. And rentals obviously don't cost as much as trading a player with like a favorable deal or something, or favorable team control, obviously, because then they're a free agent at the end of the season. But if you can get 1 or 2 good prospects out of the deal, it's like, it can be worth it. I mean, and then you're building for the future without having to risk too much, really. And at the end of the day, that player could sign back with us. Like, I'm thinking Alonso, he could sign back with us. So even if we trade him, it's not like a send off. It's just like, it's business, So anyway, stay tuned for the buying portion. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you there.